I am sharing another book haul. The lighting out here is amazingly bad. But I was going to try to use my actual laptop, which I can mirror image stuff better than on my phone, because we always end up with the backwards titles, which is a little annoying. But I like filming on my phone because it allows me to move around a lot. So we'll see how this works with the actual not as good camera on my computer. So I went to Goodwill again, got some more stuff. I ended up not buying some of these that were not on the markdown sticker, and that's because these were all pulp fantasy novels that just were the best looking things that I had ever seen. We've got this whole series, which is the Seed Bearers, which is the whole series here. The bloody, sensual tale of an immense and violent struggle in the Atlantis of ancient legend. The follow-up to that, which is, I believe, The Power of the Serpent. I think I have these in order. The saga of brave swords and demon lusts in a hell war for human souls. And then we've got Twilight of the Serpent. The sweeping epic of savage priests and pagan warlords in a battle beyond death. Whoever is writing those taglines, I hope they paid them, because they were well worth every penny of whatever that just was. But that's the whole series of this Serpent, whatever. I'm not sure, but it's great. Then we've got Sons of the Bear God, which didn't get a tagline. It just says it was in the tradition of Conan, which, that's great. I'm kind of sad for the Bear God. Which, speaking of Conan, they also had a copy of Conan there as well, an old copy. And they also had Robert Howard Cormac McArt, which I had never heard of before. Apparently this was a Irish way he went a little bit at some point in time, not just barbarian stuff. Then we have The Sword of Morning Star. Not a single one of these women have a top. Warriors in half-minute war in the world beyond in the time beyond the world fire. I have no clue what any of that means, but it sounds great. Kothar and the Demon Queen. The magnificent barbarian was faced with his most dangerous enemy, a beautiful sorceress with magic powers and unspeakable passions. I sincerely hope she is not the monster on the cover, because what is being described is not what is going on here, as far as I can tell. At least I hope it's not. I got a few other things. What Einstein Told His Barber, which is a lot of like interesting science things about how certain science stuff happens. Then we also have another John Krakauer, Where Men Win Glory. This is about Pat Tillman, which I remember vividly, this whole situation where he had been a pro football player, went from having a lot of money. He was sort of the poster child after 9/11 for patriotism, and he gave it all up to go serve his country, etc., etc., and all this, and then died. And it was touted as a big propaganda thing that, oh yes, you know, we had this person who had it all, who was willing to give it up for his country, and blah 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 blah, and fight the enemy, and look what happened to him, and then come to find out he was killed by friendly fire. And they were very, very reluctant to tell his family or anybody exactly what had happened. His family fought for a long time trying to figure out what even had happened, because the army, of course, knew they had screwed up on that one and were trying to cover the whole situation up as much as they could. And the whole thing was just very, very sad and very disheartening for what had happened to this seemed like a decent guy, and how he was used as propaganda in a false narrative. So that should be an interesting thing, again, with Krakauer, who kind of jumps from thing to thing when he goes with his topics. I finally got in the mail today, Grappler, which is starting my pro wrestling book reviews. Memoirs of a Masked Madman by Lynn the Grappler Denton. So we'll see if that one is any good. I've also picked up Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne, who I've heard a lot about this particular book from a lot of different people. I have some other John Gwynne. I have Malice. I couldn't really get into that one. So we'll see if I can get into this one. I struggle with books that are all like big, huge chunks of stuff. Just being able to have those and get into them well, because I get interrupted a lot, and that's honestly why I read a lot of nonfiction as well too. Then we've also got Horror Mayhem happening in a few days, in all honesty. The first week is supernatural horror, which I've got Dracula's Death, a tiny little book here that is a novelization of what was the first Dracula movie. Nothing But Blackened Teeth is still on its way and taking itself a good long time to get here, apparently. So instead of that one for supernatural horror, I'm going to be reading Coyote Rage, which is what I got for folk horror because it's Native American, but it also is dealing with supernatural creatures, obviously, because of the werewolf on the cover. So Nothing But Blackened Teeth is going to end up having to be my folk horror, if it even gets here in time for that, in which case we're going to have to drop and punt on that again too. I don't know why it's taking it so long. The Gothic week, we have The Woman in Black, well known, and The Elementals, which I'd already read half of, so that's really more just finishing that book more than anything else. The Cosmic Horror Week, Ballad of Black Tom, which I've been trying to read for a long time. I've got it on my Kindle too. And Ring Shout, which are both cosmic horror. And then, like I said, Nothing But Blackened Teeth is supposed to be folk horror. I also have Through the Woods, which is folk horror as well. If Nothing But Blackened Teeth doesn't get here right, I suppose I'm going to have to read Below, which is urban legend horror, I guess. We'll have to make it count for that. So, that is everything. Oh, my copy of The Grappler just flipped open, and it turns out it is a signed edition, actually. Lynn Denton actually signed it, so that's kind of a funny little thing there. Okay, so that is everything up to date on me.